And this time we're going back to the World Health Organization. What did they do? What did Tedros do? Tedros, by the way, in case you forgot, is a big part of, along with Peter Balsack, Tedros and Balsack, they really helped China cover up the COVID pandemic outbreak in the beginning.
Yes.
And he basically took China's word for it when China was saying like, oh, there's no human-to-human transmission, even though China already knew there was human-to-human transmission. The World Health Organization took their word for it, and they tweeted it out, and they told everyone there's no human-to-human transmission. They also defended China rigorously.
Oh, it was bad.
They were saying that, calling people racist.
I got so much shit for going after them in the beginning, but it turns out I was right about every single thing they did. They literally shut down every dialogue that blamed the Chinese government for a cover-up in the beginning, and in the end, I almost spoke Chinese. In the end, it turned out to be true.
Yeah, no, look, the World Health Organization, unfortunately, got a lot of funding, and especially Tedros himself, this guy. He owes his position in the World Health Organization to China. They vouched for him, and they, helped him gain his position. So, of course, he's beholden to them, in the pocket of the CCP, basically, for all intents and purposes. And so he was just listening to what they had to say. He was defending them vehemently and so on and so forth. And it turns out, of course, that he was wrong, China was wrong, and everyone suffered as a result.
Correct.
So...
anyway, let's get to the point.
Let's get to the point here.
So the WHO declared that the end of the COVID pandemic is in sight. And to really just break it down in simple terms, COVID has turned and morphed into a not as deadly virus. It's not like in the beginning. The world has kind of figured out how to deal with it in their own ways. Most countries can kind of agree that we got to let people get back to their normal lives because it's now the death rate's just not at a level where it's a pandemic anymore, right? Well, at least towards the end, getting towards the end of it, right? So the world's like, cool, thanks for coming around. Appreciate that, WHO. Let's finally get back onto having reason and logic instead of letting China lead the world into an absolute pit of destruction and hell.
How about listening to proper science and research rather than just listening to China?
Instead of an authoritarian dictator.
A place that paints their mountains green.
Yes. If you want to go follow the country that paints their mountains green.
Yeah, and the grass and the trees.
Then you're going to let the world die.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all going to die.
Yeah.
So everyone's happy about this news.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to hear this. It's like a unified approach, which is nice. It's kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel type of thing.
Yeah, everyone's like, okay, we've dealt with it. Let's just we're going to continue to deal with it, but we're going to move on and get back to normal, basically.
That's absolutely correct.
What was China's response to this? Because they've got the zero COVID policy right now, right?
Yes.
What did they do when this news came out?
They blocked it. They blocked the news.
They censored it. They blocked it. People in China are not allowed to read this, watch it, listen to it, or talk about it.
So when the WHO completely blindly followed the Chinese government,
they praised the crap out of it.
When they did that, that was great.
Yeah.
For China.
Yeah.
But now that they're saying something that goes against, because China's the only country doing the zero COVID nonsense, right? This zero COVID policy where no COVID is allowed and everyone has to go through lockdowns. 100-something million people are being affected by lockdowns right now in China.
Yeah.
Right? It's insane that China's still doing this.
Even South Africa, I don't know the exact story, but apparently they've ruled that mandating a vaccine is unconstitutional.
Yeah, and that's a country that was going ape with lockdowns.
Remember they banned the sale of alcohol and cigarettes?
Like they went pretty authoritarian on the lockdowns.
I mean, alcohol, I get it, because in South Africa people drink and then they cause crimes, okay?
Anywhere.
Well, I mean, but in South Africa specifically, that's probably a tactic to stop just the complete destruction of society. But cigarettes?
Yeah, why cigarettes?
I mean, why ban the sale of
I
cigarettes?
have absolutely no, because it makes people's lungs worse and they get COVID.
Maybe, but I'm just thinking, what's the point?
I have no idea.
Turns out some of the corrupt officials' daughters and stuff were selling, took over the black market for selling cigarettes.
No way.
That's probably why.
That's because cigarette smuggling is insane money. Yeah. It's crazy because of the tax.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Anyway, that's a different story.
Just saying, the rest of the world's not doing the zero COVID.
No, only China is, and China can't be wrong about it, and that's the problem. Yeah. As much as you might praise China for, even if you're an anti-CCP, but you're pro-China policy and they built high-speed rails, or they did whatever massive megastructure project, that's what you can do when you cut through the red tape and you have one leader making decisions.
Sure.
That all goes out the window when you realize those decisions suck.
Yeah.
Zero COVID comes from the top. It comes from Xi Jinping, or at least his cabinet, right? Probably Xi Jinping. And that's got to be his thing.
Yeah.
Every Chinese leader, Mao, Deng, right? Jiang, Hu, you all have an event that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And that's your legacy, so you can move on, the next leader takes over. So you'll have like the great opening.
Yeah,
You'll have,
of course. Reforms.
The new China. Mao Zedong was famous for making the new China and
Yeah.
taking over China, right? There's reform and opening. There's all these things like market reform, right? Like
Yes.
Jiang Zemin pro-market reform. You're famous for doing something,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's good or bad.
Xi Jinping's famous for screwing up China.
Right. So imagine, you latch onto this idea from the beginning that, okay, I'll be the one that gets rid of COVID, zero COVID, right?
Yeah.
Zero COVID's going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one that's famous for taking China to a level where the rest of the world died and it's millions of people died, and I'm the one that eradicated it. The worst nightmare happened. COVID became not very deadly.
Yes.
The rest of the world's like, I don't care anymore. The economies are not stagnating anymore because they're able to actually participate. A recession notwithstanding, like people can go back to work.
Yeah.
In China, they're neutering, stagnating, and actually imploding.
Yeah.
Their country is imploding because of this zero COVID policy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's crazy. I just covered it in my latest video. And when you have a situation where that one leader dictates that, then there's no reform. There's no reform able. So you have to stop news like the WHO, who was previously in your pocket, saying, listen, it's kind of over, guys. Let's relax now.
I actually just want to point out once again the complete turnabout. Like, China's such a master of just doing whatever's convenient at the moment, right? And when the WHO, when they managed to finagle the WHO and make them say what they wanted to say by lying to them, and also by not allowing them to go and look at the labs, not allowing them to do any investigations and all that kind of crap, and convincing them, twisting their arm, then they were like, look, the WHO said this. And every time anyone around the world questioned China, they would just throw up the WHO reports. They'd say, the WHO is on our side. Look, the WHO said this.
We didn't say it, they did.
But meanwhile, no, what they're saying is like, we made them say this.
Correct.
Right?
It's actually a great analogy is like all the human rights think tanks that they create in different countries.
Yeah.
Because then they can say, oh, this study says that the Uyghurs are not in concentration camps and it came from the Netherlands, but it's actually their own.
It's their own thing.
Right.
Yeah, but then now suddenly the WHO starts to say things that they don't like. They just block and censor them.
Correct.
So it's just fair weather friends. Yeah. It's just nonsense. That's the way the Chinese government works.
Correct.